is Strawberry Lake Bigfoot Expedition, Part 3 with childhood encounter details in Evart, Michigan on 7/19/22. Evart, Michigan is just north of Big Rapids and east of Reed City, home to Strawberry Lake and lots of state land. This is the route of our hike in red here. The yellow X is where this video will start. The green X is where the logging incident took place, and the pink X is where the video ends at Strawberry Lake. Hi, I'm still working on a lot more art. I'm going to be working on a lot more art for the Strawberry Lake and Morris Lake Monster videos in the book for quite a while, probably weeks if not months. I'm going to bring you the Strawberry Lake story along with a hike and as many pictures as I got done already. I'm going to return there in another week, and I'm going to interview a few more people, and I'm going to look for some more evidence in the newspapers, and I'll update you on that. And I'm eventually going to put Strawberry Lake and Morris Lake Monsters together in a video with all the updated information and all the finished art. And that's going to take a while. For now, this is what I got. This is my art in progress, what I've got done so far. I have individuals that I draw without backgrounds like these, and then I can superimpose them into a background so I don't have to draw the backgrounds over and over. Some of the backgrounds I don't have done, and for this story I'll be using some other photographs in the background until I get them done. Memory triggers. There's things that trigger old memories, like seeing an old video, looking at old pictures, meeting old friends, or going back to where these incidents took place. Those trigger memories. Now, this is when I returned to Evart, and little did I know I parked right in front of the museum. And the museum held something that I didn't even know was in there. Well, I knew it, but I forgot about it. And it didn't exactly register right away how important this mastodon bone was. This mastodon bone was the whole reason why I ever came to Evart. When I was a kid, like most kids, I was into dinosaurs. And when my mother saw this article about this mastodon bone being found here in Evart, she found the camping area was here also. And that's how we started coming to Strawberry Lake in the first place, is because of this very bone. Mastodon lower leg bones found July 1972 when Michigan Consolidated Gas Company was installing a new gas main on the east side of 80th Avenue between 2 Mile Road and 3 Mile Road. A large bone is the right fibula, which has been coated with several coats of shellac for preservation. A smaller bone is the right fibula, which has been broken in half. This next old Super 8 silent footage my mother tried to take at Strawberry Lake of me and Sammy, and tried to get us together on film. I eventually cleaned this video up, and I didn't remember any of it until it was cleaned up, and then it really unlocked the memories for me. This is a slow motion loop of the little bit of footage that she tried to get, and I'll explain it more later. It is blurry. I'm going to get this restored. I don't imagine it being to look much better. This is as good as I can get it. I was getting visited by Sammy, the juvenile Sasquatch, right next to the water there while I was sitting in the canoe, and there was 3 other ones next to him, and they ran up the tree as my mom tried to sneak up and get video footage of them. This is when I returned to my old home and what was left of the barns. Only a couple of them stand where there were 4 of them. The old milking barn is gone, but I'll tell you what, this brought back a lot of memories too. This really helped quite a bit. Matter of fact, it wasn't this visit, but it was an earlier visit that triggered the initial memories of this whole event that I was hypnotized to forget. It was the visit to these barns that triggered all these memories. Now this is the exact spot where we camped and the boy Mike was taken. This is about where we set up camp back here when I was a kid, and before they put the dam in over Algonquin, there's a lot more water flowing back here, and there was a creek coming off the back of this. All right, this is all that's left now. We also found these two huge toads on the way back. They're both the same size and opposite colors.
There's the big guy we just found.
What's in the video? In this video, the hike to Strawberry Lake, this is part 3, and I get to the exact spot of the logging encounter incident, and I'll explain that in full detail throughout this video.
I don't think it'd be big enough. Looks like there's a fire here. Either that, it's that one fungus.
That year in 1975, we'd been to Strawberry Lake, at least in 1973 and 74. 1975, we're going to stay 2 different times. It was going to be in late June and sometime in August. And our first visit was going to be rather short. It was a weekend. And the second visit was going to be a whole week. My dad had the time off. This particular clip of the old video footage here is probably 73 or 74 because it was before we got the big yellow canoe in 75. And that's my sister in front of our big old 1967 green Pontiac Catalina station wagon. We're getting close up to here where there's a little creek that feeds from Whitmore Pond to Old Strawberry Lake Swamp and feeds all the way into Strawberry Lake itself.
Doesn't look like it falls anymore because there's so much water. That was a falls. Yeah, the water level's up. That spot right there used to fall 2 feet.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's what I tried to explain to you. These big banks on the side of this creek. The creek is crystal. Look at the bass. That's a sunfish, but
yeah.
One of those winters, I was taken by my aunt to Barnum Bailey Circus or Zubini Flying Circus, one of those two in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and I went with a bunch of my cousins, supposedly related to Tarzan Zubini. We got to ride the elephants, and I got to see some of the chimps and the animals there. I think that's how I lost all my fear of them. And that would help me a little bit later in Strawberry Lake when I go back there and I'm trying to tell my parents that there's monkeys in the woods, and I didn't know any better and they didn't believe me right away.
There's a big bass. Holy shit. In there, dude.
Yeah, I told you so.
In there, man. Where's he going? I wonder if he's stuck.
Probably not. You could probably jump in there and catch him, huh?
I'm not walking down that. Nope.
You have to go down the other side. Okay, to the right is private property.
It is?
Yeah. I think there's a trail to the left, I'm not sure. But I gotta go left. Oh damn, there ain't a trail to the left.
There's no trail down. God, horrible. Big ass bat. Damn.
Dude, look at that. Come over here, you can see him really good.
Yeah, I already spotted him.
Now this side over here, I literally haven't been over here since I was 8 years old. I went up that way the other time, then I realized it was here that it was where I was at.
Now that first June visit was a shorter one, and that's actually when I started seeing the monkeys in the woods, and I was telling my parents about it, and of course they didn't believe me and they thought I was seeing raccoons, but that was also the time that the logging incident happened.
There's Strawberry Lake right over that grassy part is the road that goes in between the two.
This is the view the witness had looking east from Strawberry Lake, across the swamp at the area being deforested, where the logging equipment was, to make a positive identification of the witnesses. I know because I was standing right next to him at the time he was asking me about it.
Oh, this is Strawberry Lake?
This is called Old Strawberry Lake.
Well, how did I end up way over here, away from the rest of the campground, in a swamp, by a bunch of logging equipment? I'll tell you. My dad thought it was an alright idea if I went for a hike that I was begging to take around the lake to look around. He was going to go with me, but he just got that new canoe and he was fishing and he was going to follow me on shore, and I was supposed to stay along that trail that went around all the campsites along the shoreline. Kind of a little ways away from camp where there weren't any campers and there was empty sites, and the part of the lake that meets the swamp that the road goes through, that I'll show you here in the map, they just kind of came out of the brush and started following right alongside of me. All four of the juvenile Sasquatch, the two really small ones and the other two that were about my size.
You should find a snake or something.
Yeah.
Quit worrying about the flies.
Dude, it's hard now too.
Well, I thought I'd take a look over at the swamp for some frogs and snakes, but I was kind of caught up in this game of hide and go seek in the ferns with these little juvenile Sasquatch, and this went on for quite some time. But this is how I made my way over towards the logging equipment further back in the swamp, away from my dad's site. At one point, myself and the juvenile Sasquatch, all of them, climbed this large tree that was leaning over the side of the the swamp. I'll show you that in a little bit when I get to it.
Pretty sure that area up there where all those little trees are is the logging area that I had no experience at. Dangle thinks I'm always talking to him.
The yellow X, my family's camp area where my hike starts. The blue line is me hiking alone. The red is where I was joined by the 4 juvenile Sasquatch. And the red X is where the logging equipment was at. And the purple X is where I met the witness when I got back around from the logging equipment. And blue from the purple X was my continued hike alone around the other side of the lake. The orange X is where I was found at the camp store. I was thirsty. I was drinking water from the fountain when they recognized me.
I'm saying right up here in these young trees is where it happened. Where the logging equipment was. I came around this side though. Pretty sure. God, I can't remember. You gotta remember that road over there that you could see in between Strawberry Lake and here. Looking this way, you could see the logging equipment. Because that's how far the witness spotted the other, you know, the teens in, you know, all black with black hoods on and everything, busting up the equipment. I'd love it if I could find that lever out here somewhere. That piece of that bulldozer that he pulled off of. Just sitting out here, that'd be so fucking badass.
I was playing with them in the ferns, hide and seek for, I don't know, 15-20 minutes, making my way along that swamp, looking for snakes. We climbed up in a tree that was hanging over the edge of the swamp, and we made our way back to where they were doing logging on the east side of that swamp back there. And you could see a couple logging equipment machines back there from that road that I started my journey on around the swamp. You could clearly see them cutting them down. I remember asking my dad about it, and he said that's called deforesting. And I said, well, why do they do that? Well, that got my curiosity up, and I started heading back to these machines because, you know, I was a boy and I loved machines. I just wanted to get a closer look at these big things. I'd never seen anything like them. And they followed along with me. The first one I went to that looked like a caterpillar, it was locked up with a padlock, and I looked around it and looked at how big the tires were and this and that and the other thing, and I made my way over to the crane. The crane was unlocked, and I opened the door. I just wanted to get inside and look around and play like I was driving it. You know, I got in there and I started moving the levers around, and I was making, you know, truck noises. You know, I was 8 years old. That didn't last for more than a few seconds when 1 week later, call Sammy, one of the bigger ones that was my size, kind of pushed me aside, and he grabbed the levers and he was moving the levers around really violently after no time, and I just moved right out of the way. And he wasn't making any vocal noises while he was doing this, but as the seconds got into more seconds, he was trying to tear these levers out, and he did that. I don't know if he broke with one of the shear pins that are the nuts and bolts in the bottom one of these levers. He pulled it right out and started beating the crap out of the freaking the machinery and busted the window in, and I'm trying to make my way out of there. He's making all this noise. I know somebody's going to hear it and they're going to blame me for it. And I made my way out of there as fast as I could.
Huh. If the camera picked up that tree knock. Should be looking under stuff for snakes, dude. They won't be out in this heat. Be hiding under crap.
Yeah, at the time we're shooting this video, walking around the swamp, it's about 90 degrees out.
There's campers out there.
Eh? Look at all these little frogs on this log. Come on, Dango, you're walking by a whole bunch of shit. See there's shit on that log? You walked right by it.
What?
There's a joke. See there's shit on the log?
Oh. You want to take this game trail?
Yep. I think that tree that's in the water is the one that I was hanging in. See, look at those. Look at the beaver damage over there.
Oh no.
Why?
Yeah. Really bad.
Now this is a picture of the two teenage boys that I was friends with. I'm the smaller one in the picture. The one I got my hand on his shoulder, his name was Randy also. And I think the other guy's name was Greg. These are the two teenagers that end up getting blamed for the damage done on the logging equipment. And I'm going to prove that they didn't have anything to do with it. Not only that, the second boy that they blamed wasn't even there for the second happening. I met them down at the playground. It was a small playground out with the bathrooms and the wash-up area and laundry, and they had a merry-go-round out there, and a bunch of us kids were on there. And I was the last one to stay on as fast as they could spin me around till I got sick. But I didn't know you could get sick from doing that either. But I learned, and I still had fun anyway, and that's how I met those two. Also note this area that we're walking in right now with the ferns. In August had larger ferns, and this is where we played hide and go seek at this exact spot. Well, when I was gone for 3 hours is what my dad told me, but I could only recover about 45 minutes of memory. I'm not sure what took me so long to go around that side of the lake, and when I got to the store camp, I was found and brought back to my camp. But they still thought I was crazy. They still thought I was playing with raccoons. They didn't believe me about the monkey thing. And while they were searching for me, they did find out that my friend Randy was part of this little nudist colony, hippie/nudist colony, and one part of the lake that they had sectioned off, and my parents had met them. And well, they became friends, and my dad hung out with Randy's dad and did some fishing, and my mom had somebody to go talk to, and she hung out with Randy's mom. Now, when the logging workers came back, somehow they found that witness, and the witness found me, and they came to question me about what happened to their equipment down there. They even took me down there to check the stuff out, and on my way down there, I told my dad that there was monkeys doing that, and he told me not to tell him that. And he think that, you know, I was crazy. So I didn't mention that, and they went down there and they found the other footprints, and they're a little bit bigger than mine. So, you know, they matched them up with the witness's story that, you know, it was a bunch of teenagers out there barefooted, all dressed in black with hoodies on, wrecking some equipment in the middle of the day. Yeah. So after we're done camping there in June, I was going home, thinking that I was crazy and seeing monkeys in the woods, right? I knew what I was seeing, but they didn't believe me of that trip. But when we came back in August, things changed.
This is weird. That's the exact trail I took in 1975, dude, that we just walked.
Well, when we returned in August for our longer visit, that we're going to stay almost a week, when I met Randy, he told me that the activity basically picked up with little Sasquatch, what they thought were chimps, and the kids were playing with them. Randy was playing with them quite often, and now his mother was seeing them. And when my mother went to go visit Randy's mother, she shared this information with her.
No. Not unless you know the owners. And this is the, oh my God. That little walkway down there is exactly the same. I'm sure it's probably a different one, but that's what they had back then. There was no campsites on this side. Of course, this wasn't gravel, it was just a 2-track.
What do you want to do?
I'm gonna go splash my face in the freaking water in a minute. Huh?
Oh, wait.
Well, come here and look at this lake.
And she was kind of surprised because, you know, this is the first realization that these chimps are real, and I wasn't imagining things.
See the big white house up there? That's one of the original houses, the one down. See those, the cattails and all that stuff over there?
Yeah.
That's where that goes in, where that pond's at. And about where that deck is, where that guy's over there, is where we camped. And that was the nudity thing back down there. Down there was a playground, and up there by the house where you saw the barn before they tore it down, where while they're tearing it down, that was the camp store. Right, where those kids are playing over there. I got video footage of me catching frogs right there in that exact same spot.
I distinctly remember that time because it was very unusual, because it was a nudist. It was a nudist camp, right? And like, it was okay for me to run around nude. I was 8 years old, but I came over to the picnic table, and Randy's mom, my mother, are sitting there with no clothes on, talking about this chimp, and she named it Sammy.
Still alone.
Randy's mom had named it Sammy. And then Randy's mother makes a reference to a sighting of these chimps that was printed in the newspaper in an old issue. She reached into her bag and she had a bunch of old issues of the local newspaper. Now this is what I'm going back up there next week to look for in the microfiche also, if I can ever find this article. When she showed this article to my mother about the chimp being seen by other kids, you know, she pretty much believed it. But what happened next even cemented it more. While they're sitting there talking, about 20-30 feet away by a tree, right in front of my mother and Randy's mom, myself and Randy, the chimps come up there. There's 4 of them. They can definitely see there's 4 chimps, not just one chimp, like I told them. And they're like, oh, look at that. There's 2 bigger ones. It must be a male and a female, and they must have survived over the winters here, and look, they have babies. They actually went out and left some, I think it was apples and bananas out there for them, and when they approached them, they ran away, but they left them at that tree, and they actually came back there and got them, and then ran away again. We sat there and watched that. So after that, my mother was determined to get footage of this chimp, or chimps, and that's how she tried to get this footage of me in the canoe when I was sitting with the chimps there next to the canoe, and the one's got his arm, Sammy's got his arm around me. And she was laying on the ground trying to get this, and she didn't get it in focus. She tried really hard a couple other times too, and she was kind of depressed that she couldn't get close enough to him with this camera, and she didn't know why. Other incidents of that second visit that I remember, other than just really brief glimpses of them coming over and seeing us. One time when we were swimming, naked of course, in the in the naked zone over there that was roped off for us to play. It was just Randy and I and Sammy and the other chimps, you know, if you want to call them that. The juvenile Sasquatch came up to a little peninsula that jutted out that had a bunch of brush on it. And Randy and I started splashing them. And they started splashing back. We played for a few minutes like that until some adult walked by in the path and they ran off. That was always interrupting our playtimes with them. They were always really brief. Nothing like the logging incident. Now, what I'm guessing is this juvenile Sasquatch, Sammy, and the juvenile Sasquatch that I later had a couple years later with the encounters at my old farmhouse in the barns and with my neighbors was one and the same Sasquatch. So Sammy and Mike might have, and most likely, were the same Sasquatch. Somehow he followed me home from this lake. At least that's what I think. Stay tuned. I'll have more on this pretty soon. Now there's going to be a lot more on this, and I'm going to have the drawings done at one point or another, and they're going up there to find witnesses and more evidence, and they're going to be looking through the papers. When I get this all done, I'll have another video. And
walk down there and watch.
Hopefully
next to the
maybe
water's edge. I want you to go first and watch them. I think frogs will jump in. Go down to the side of the water here and walk down to the edge. Never mind. There's usually a ton of frogs here.
Well, even you here at this area where I used to catch a lot of frogs at before I went over to the ferns.
Or bluegill, I can't tell. Okay, that's enough of filming. Bye, Strawberry Lake. Again.
Hey, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. It helps the channel. Appreciate it.